What was A? Analyze. Analyze what? Analyze how karma is working in our life. We discussed how the principle of karma means that action leads to some result, some reaction. However, it is not just the present action that leads to a reaction. There could be present action plus past action that leads to the result. So now how much the present action contributes and how much the past action contributes, that can vary from situation to situation, present karma and past karma. So sometimes you might be doing a lot of good things, you might be 100 positive, but if the past karma is 90 negative, then we might get only a result of 10. So because of this, there's a bigger picture. And we understand that if we are polite to someone right now, but we were rude to that person before, then our politeness may not be reciprocated immediately. And then we discuss this graphical analysis on quadrants of how our present actions can be positive, present karma can be positive, or it can be negative. And similarly, our past karma can be positive or it can be negative. So, if we consider these 4 quadrants, 1, 2, 3, 4, that it's best if our present karma is positive and our past is also positive. This is the best situation. Here will be super effective. Whatever we are doing, we'll get a lot of good results from it. Like the Midas touch, or the Midas touch, depending on which part of the world we are, how it pronounced. But that whatever we do turns out into gold. Now, at least we don't want to be in either of these quadrants. That we don't want our present karma to be negative because we are creating a darker future. So we'll try to now understand how to move forward and face life's challenges. First is, okay, I will analyze and accept. Although life does not make sense, maybe there is some higher sense over here. I can't. So now today, although I can't make sense of it immediately. So one thing we discussed is that our vision of life is finite vision is not the final vision. So finite vision is not equal to the final vision. So with this understanding, now let us move to the second part. So today I'll talk about C and D. Those of you who have the book from yesterday, you can use that book, otherwise you'll read from here. So, you can repeat after me. My dear Lord, let me remember that my life story is a part of your story. So, let's recite the verse for those of you who are comfortable. Tata shvetair hayayir yukte mahati syandane sthitau madhava pandavaschaiva divyau shankhau pradadmatu. Then Krishna and Arjuna standing tall on their chariots, white steeds and all, blew their conches loud and bright, a sound that shook the field with might. This is Bhagavad Gita 1.14. So would anyone like to read one of the paragraphs? Yes, thank you. One paragraph. So the Gita is not just describing a historical truth. It's also describing a timeless truth. Our body is like a chariot, and so we as souls are this body chariot, and like right next to the soul is the Supreme Soul, is Paramatma. So Atma and Paramatma are together just as Krishna and Arjuna were together on the chariot. So the world is our Kurukshetra. We may not have to shoot arrows, but we all have to face challenges in life. We have to fight battles in life. And the understanding is that we are not alone over here. So let's now, once we understand that, okay, the situation I am in right now is because of a combination of my present and past actions. So then, how do I deal with it? What do I do about it? So I said I'll talk about three broad principles from the Gita. One was karma, the other is dharma, and the fourth is bhakti. So in ACT, A was associated karma, analyze to understand how karma is working. Now C is commit to doing our dharma. And then T, I talk about T associated bhakti, tap the power of God through bhakti. So yes, so see, let's look at commit. Now the principle of karma has to be very carefully understood. Because sometimes some people think that, okay, whatever problems are coming in our life, it's because of our past karma. So therefore, what should we do? Just suffer them. Well, that's an oversimplification. Why oversimplification? Because success in life, or life's progress or success, does not come simply by exhausting past karma. I'll explain what I mean by exhausting past karma. Yes, we have a certain stockpile of past karma that we have to deal with. So it's like if, say, we have spent a lot of money in the past. Now we have debt. Now the debt has to be repaid. But the purpose of life is not simply to repay the debt. There's so much more we don't want to do in life. So the life success does not come simply by exhausting past karma. It comes by executing present dharma. What we are expected to do, it is when we do that, that is when we grow in life. So the Vedic teachings in general are not so much karma-centered as dharma-centered. So I'll give a few examples to illustrate this point. In the Ramayana, when Ram is exiled to the forest, at that time, one person becomes very angry about this. Everybody is shocked. Everybody is shattered, you could say. But one person is enraged. Can you guess who is that? Lakshman. And there's a fascinating conversation between Lakshman and Ram at that point. Lakshman says, he's so angry, he says, he's so angry with Dashrath that he's not even ready to call him his father. He said, the king has become blinded by lust for his youngest queen. And that's why he's lost his good sense. There is no need for you to obey such a king. So, at that time, Ram is very grave. He says, "Oh Lakshmana, I was there with my father and I saw his condition. It was not infatuation, it was obligation. That he was obliged by his word, promise. So now, when we are angry, we want to direct our anger somewhere. So then Lakshman directs his anger toward Kaikeyi. He says, you have never harmed Kaikeyi anyway. You always respected her like a mother. How could she have done something like this to you? So Ram says, Dad, don't be angry. Don't criticize Kaikeyi. You know, her love for me was just like the flow of the Ganga, pure and unceasing. Lakshman is still not yet done. So he says, that's what I can't understand. How did the Ganga dry up overnight? So at that time Lord Ram says, that's why when I heard these words coming from her, I I understood that this is the will of destiny. This is just not something normal, the interaction between two people. When what do you mean by destiny over here? That in general, most people turn toward philosophy as a regular small talk when they meet each other on the train or a car or a bus or a plane. Is that right? This is the first thing we ask people, so what is your philosophy? We don't ask such questions. Most people turn toward philosophy at times when life does not make sense. In fact, a simple definition of philosophy is, or the purpose of philosophy is to make sense of things. To make sense of things when things don't make sense. To make sense of things when things don't make sense. Normally, if we are able to make sense of things, okay, I work and I get some results. And if I don't get results, okay, this person is to blame, or this happened, or that happened. But when life just doesn't make sense, that's when we turn toward philosophy. Now, some people may have a philosophy itself that nothing makes sense. That is not really philosophy. But, so one concept that is very commonly there in the Indian tradition, but it's almost there everywhere. The idea of Daiva or destiny is there. Now in the Islamic tradition, there's the idea of Kismet. In the Egyptian tradition, the Japanese tradition, the Chinese tradition, there are equivalent concepts. Shakespeare also said that there is a tide of fortune. When we sail our boat at that particular time, we go a long distance. But otherwise, we don't go forward. So interestingly, what Ram is saying is, when something bad has happened which just makes no sense, that is destiny. Lakshman is still not done, he said. He says, only cowards accept injustice as destiny. He says, heroes fight against injustice. He says, rise against Dashrath and I will be by your side. The throne will be yours. That time Lord Ram says that, oh Lakshman, it was as a duty to my father that I was going to ascend the throne. And now, as a duty to my father, for honoring his words, I will go to the forest. So he says, my concern is not what is destiny. My concern is what is my duty. What is my dharma over here? So, later on, for example, when Sita is abducted, Lord Ram doesn't say, oh, it was probably destiny that Sita was abducted. If she's abducted, let her be abducted. I can't do anything about it. No. The idea of destiny, now what is destiny? Destiny is basically like our baggage of past karma. When we come into a lifetime, our life does not begin with birth. We have lived before. And when we come into this life, above us is a karma baggage from the past life. The karma baggage means all the unprocessed karma from our previous lives is stored like a stockpile. And this karma baggage is essentially what is called as destiny. Sanskrit word is Daiva. Now, this past karma baggage is something which we all have. Now, some people have a carry-on bag, some people have a check-in bag. Some people have many check-in bags. We all have this karma baggage that we carry with us. And a major installment of the karma baggage comes right at our birth itself. A lot about us is determined at our birth. Our ethnicity or nationality, our complexion, maybe our basic starting financial level based on the financial level of our family, maybe our IQ to a large extent. It's largely driven by birth. We can improve it, no doubt. Somebody can from 120 can go to 130, 135. But a person 120 is not going to likely to go to 160 or 170, no matter how much they try. A certain level of things are fixed. And like that, this past karma baggage keeps coming in our life intermittently. Now, sometimes it may give us something positive, sometimes it may give us something negative. But the karma baggage keeps coming in our life. So it keeps unloading at different times. So that's how the past karma and present karma combine to give us the results. So the point I'm making is that the purpose of life is not simply exhausting past karma. And okay, whatever may have happened, was Sita's abduction because of past karma? Maybe. But was Ram's exile because of past karma? Maybe. The point is not what am I supposed to do is determined by whether it is past karma or not. The consideration of past karma is to help us to come to peace with what is happening. We analyze to accept. Like yesterday I discussed that life may feel unfair, but in the big picture what happens is life is fairly unfair. Fairly unfair. What this means is that sometimes what we get is worse than what we deserve or what we have worked for. And sometimes what we get is better than what we deserve. That's because the past karma baggage is also unloading at that particular time. So, but when we decide to accept something that is happening which seems unfair, we can say, okay, this may be my past karma, let me come to peace with what is happening. But how to respond to what is happening, that's a completely different ballgame. That is to be decided based on what is my dharma right now. What is the right thing for me to do? And this can have different approaches. So we commit to doing our dharma. So I'll explain this in 2 3 different examples of what committing to dharma means. So dharma basically means doing the right thing. Now we always ask the question, what is the right thing to do? So to understand that, I'll have to become a little more conceptual, but I'll take a little conceptual, then I'll become a little more practical. The word dharma has many different meanings. Now, one of the most inclusive meanings is harmonious belonging. That each one of us, when we say it's duty, the word duty doesn't really convey the full import of dharma. What it means is harmonious belonging is, say, each one of us is a part of a larger whole. So when we belong to a larger whole, that larger whole gives us something and we have to give something to the larger whole. So for example, right now you have come for this talk. So then if you are going to come for this talk, there is a dharma of how to belong to this talk properly. That would be if your phone is there, keep your phone in silent mode. If you need to talk with someone urgently, don't talk right now over here. If you're going to sit for this talk, it's not that you turn your back to the speaker and sit. You know that each one, there's a harmonious way to belong. Now that is from your side. But if I am representing the larger whole over here, then for me, if you are giving your attention, then I also need to give something meaningful, something valuable. If you come for a spiritual talk and I go on a political rant against a particular party or a particular community, then you may say, I don't want to be here. I didn't come here for this. So dharma is both individual and collective. So the individual dharma is whatever larger unit we are a part of, we need to belong to that larger unit properly. So that is what Arjuna asked Krishna about. Pruchhami tvam dharma sambhura chetaha. That I want to know what is the right thing to do. Now, there is another meaning of dharma which comes in, say, 4.8. Where Krishna tells Arjuna, dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. That I come here to establish dharma. And that is referring to social order. The larger whole has to sometimes be fixed. Sometimes the individual has to fix themselves so that things work out properly. Sometimes the larger whole has to be fixed. And both involve dharma. So it's not just that. So harmonious belonging means that the individual should do their part in the larger whole, and the larger whole should also be doing their part for the individual. So if we drive on the road, then going on the road means we should be following the rules of traffic. That is, we do our dharma. We pay taxes, whatever taxes are required for using the road transport system. But then the larger whole, that will be the government or the authorities, they should be keeping the roads proper. And they should not be pulling over people or fining people based on discrimination of some kind. Or people of a particular ethnicity, they are pulled over more. People of a particular other group, even if they do some wrong, they are not pushed, they are not pulled over. So dharma has both these aspects. That there is the individual and the collective. Now in politics, there is the right and there is the left. Now, these words are very common, but sometimes they're not so easy to understand what they mean. So the right, a simple way to understand this is that the right